Why do humans keep domesticating monsters? The humans, they're doing it again. They're petting it. That was the first thing Captain Thurn of the Galactic Observation Fleet said when he saw the live feed from Vornak 7. His voice cracked mid-sentence. The bridge crew leaned in closer to their monitors in disbelief. There, standing proudly on a sand dune of a planet considered knobbed, Class 9, do not approach under any circumstance, was a group of Earthlings. Picnicking next to a 20-foot-tall apex predator, a scrarg, a walking nightmare with acid breath, blade limbs, and a face that looked like it had been rejected by evolution as too much. And next to it, no, on top of it, was a human child. A toddler, giggling, riding it like a pony while holding a juice box. The predator, known across 7 star systems as the Spine Reaper, blinked slowly and made a sound that suspiciously resembled a purr. The mother, filming on her phone, giggled too. Look, honey, he really likes her. I think she's his emotional support human. Emotional, support, human. Captain Thurn dropped his mug of boiled root sap. No one noticed. All eyes were locked on the screens. It wasn't the first time, not even the 10th, but something about this one broke them. Last week, it had been the incident on Zellion Prime, where humans had tamed the subterranean scream beasts with peanut butter. Before that, the bioacid scorpions of Nebulok 3 were taught to play fetch. And before that, the thermal worms of Glorax 12 were apparently good boys if you scratched behind their ears. Every species in the galaxy had a rule. If it has more teeth than a blender, leave it alone. But not humans. Humans, in their denim cargo pants and unshakable optimism, had one guiding philosophy when faced with anything that hissed, screeched, or tried to bite their face off. It didn't matter if it was glowing, venomous, invisible, or actively digesting someone. They always tried to befriend it. No other species could understand it. Not the cautious Tharnians, not the ancient Vul, not the emotionless Synthkin. It was like Earthlings saw monsters and thought, that's just a misunderstood friend who hasn't had enough cuddles. Why? Why did they do this? Why did they carry snacks everywhere? Why did they give nightmare creatures names like Mittens or Snugglepuff, or in one unforgettable case, Lord Cuddlekins, Slayer of Worlds? The theories were many. Some thought humans were biologically defective, missing the part of the brain that screamed run. Others blamed radiation, or caffeine, or some obscure ancient Earth religion called Disney. But the most terrifying theory? It worked. That's what shook the galaxy. Not just the boldness, but the fact that these beasts actually responded. The Scrarg, for instance, had annihilated a research station just last month. 37 casualties. No survivors. It was declared a planetary-level threat. And now, it was laying on its side, tongue lolling out, while a human toddler stacked plastic blocks on its head. Captain Thurn zoomed in. The Scrarg didn't just tolerate it, it looked content. He turned to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Kreese. Run a genetic scan. Is this a new subspecies? Something domesticated? Kreese checked. Ran it twice. No, sir. That's the same Scrarg Alpha from the Dusk Massacre. Exact DNA match. Silence. And then a noise came from the feed. A high-pitched whistle. The human mother was calling it. Come on, Muffin. Time to go. The Scrarg stood obediently, scooped the child gently onto its back, walked next to the humans like a trained pony, its claws retracted. Thurn whispered, horrified. They named it Muffin. A low moan rippled through the bridge crew. Somewhere, an ensign vomited quietly into a bag. There were rules. There were systems. Natural orders, death worlds, apex predators. This wasn't supposed to happen. But with humans, all bets were off. Thurn slumped into his chair. How are we supposed to conquer a species that treats universal death beasts like emotional support animals? No one had an answer. Outside, in the cold void of space, dozens of other surveillance feeds blinked to life. Other planets, other predators, other humans. One clip showed a man using a six-eyed flying razor squid as a hang glider. Another had a grandma teaching 2 lava serpents how to knit. There was even one where an alien swarm mind, feared across empires, had apparently become addicted to belly rubs and was now living in a human's bathtub. And Earth? Earth had started exporting exotic galactic companion starter kits. Captain Thurn buried his head in his hands. We're not dealing with a species, we're dealing with a problem. It all all started with a sign, a big, glowing, blinking sign. Warning, planet Geltron 9 is under galactic quarantine. No entry, no exceptions. This means you. And right below it, spray painted in a cheerful shade of pink, humans welcome. The Galactic Council had no idea who added the second line, but it didn't really matter because humans didn't need encouragement. They had already landed. Technically, it wasn't an invasion. It wasn't a military operation. It was a field trip. A group of Earthling eco-tourists arrived with backpacks, solar kettles, and selfie drones. They weren't scientists or explorers. They were vloggers, influencers, backpackers. One of them even wore a shirt that said, "Death worlds are just misunderstood." The flagship uploaded a video within minutes of landing. "Hey, what's up, Space Fam?" the human host beamed into the camera. "Today, we're on the legendary Geltron 9, most dangerous wildlife in the galaxy. Apparently, we're going to check out some beasts, make some friends, and hopefully not get eaten. Smash that like button." In the background, something shrieked so loud the camera trembled. They didn't flinch. They cheered. 2 hours later, the Galactic Defense Outpost monitoring the sector received the emergency feed. The officers watching it were pale, silent. On screen, one of the humans, named Blake, was standing nose to snout with a Geltron apex. A beast so dangerous, it had no natural predators. 8 legs, claws like scythes, eyes that saw in 10 spectrums, a scream that liquefied nervous systems. It was a species designed by nature to make sure nothing else survived on the same planet. And Blake, he was scratching it under the chin. The beast wiggled. Blake giggled. "You like that, huh, big guy? Who's a good boy? You are. Yes, you are." Somehow, impossibly, the creature did not vaporize him. It sat, its head tilted. Then Blake tossed it a protein bar. The beast caught it midair and purred. The outpost fell into chaos. "They're feeding it?" shrieked Officer Nur. "With what? Trail mix?" Captain Drex ran the footage back, pausing it frame by frame. "No, it looks like dehydrated peanut butter protein bars with chia seeds." Nur blinked. "Chia? What is chia?" "Seeds. From Earth. Superfood, apparently." A long pause. "And that's what tamed it." Drex stared blankly at the screen. "That or the head pats. Honestly, I don't know anymore." By day 3, the humans had named a dozen beasts. They had assigned them personalities, created backstories, gave them costumes. The worst of it, they meant well. They weren't reckless or malicious. They just didn't see the danger. One human sat inside a predator's rib cage like it was a hammock, sipping tea and reading an alien romance novel. Another taught a tentacled horror how to sit, stay, and roll over. And the leader of the group, a woman named Crystal, was trying to get an entire pack of apex predators to pose for a group photo. She called them her squishy murder babies. At one point, they live-streamed a fashion show. The beasts were wearing scarves. Scarves. Word spread fast. Other species began tuning in to the human broadcasts. At first, it was out of morbid curiosity, then growing horror, and finally, a kind of spiritual collapse. The Synthkin Collective, who had studied predator-prey logic for millennia, simply shut down half their neural grid and stopped returning calls. The Tharnians held an emergency summit. One general threw his ceremonial blade into a lake and said he was going to become a tree. Meanwhile, back on Geltron 9, Crystal was organizing a Meet My Monster community picnic. She invited nearby planets. "Come hang with our new friends. They don't bite unless you're rude." #adopt a dragon. The Galactic Council tried to intervene. They sent a diplomatic envoy, shielded with plasma armor and escorted by 2 destroyers. But when they arrived, the beasts were wearing flower crowns. One was playing fetch with a drone. Another was napping on a giant beanbag. The diplomat froze, unsure whether to panic or apologize. Then a child ran past him, screaming, Toby, no! Drop the ambassador! No eating sentience before snacks!" The beast dropped the ambassador gently and licked him. To this day, no one knows why the Geltron apex species accepted them. Maybe they were impressed. Maybe the peanut butter was just that good. Or maybe, just maybe, the one universal truth in the galaxy is this: you don't mess with a creature that hugs monsters. Not because they're violent, not because they're terrifying, but because they don't know they should be afraid. And that's the scariest thing of all. The invasion of Earth was never meant to fail. Zerga Kra, the Grand Devourer, had consumed 3 moons, vaporized 2 fleets, and once chewed through a Dyson ring just to prove a point. Entire civilizations trembled at the mention of his name. His arrival was always preceded by gravitational anomalies, blackened skies, and a deafening psychic scream that made most species collapse in fetal terror. So naturally, when Zerga Kra entered Earth's orbit, the Galactic War Council watched with smug satisfaction. They weren't just expecting victory, they expected extinction. What they got was a welcome party. Humans saw the sky turn red, the oceans ripple, and the clouds spiral into unholy geometry, and assumed it was a concert. Within hours, TikTok was flooded with hashtags, Tash Apocalypse Vibes, Sky Beast Dance Challenge, and inexplicably, Zerga's Got Talent. A Californian influencer climbed onto her roof, holding a pumpkin spice latte, looked at the pulsing horror in the sky and shouted, "OMG, is that like a cosmic jellyfish?" Then she waved. Zerga Kra paused. He destroyed worlds for blinking at him wrong. But this small, squishy life form was waving and smiling, unafraid. She even threw him something, a glowing rectangular object. Later, it was identified as a limited edition phone case with glitter and cat ears. Zerga Kra caught it instinctively. It sparkled. He liked it. Before he could begin his planetary eradication ritual, more humans showed up. With snacks. One man barbecued sausages on a rooftop and offered them skyward. "Yo, big guy, you like brats?" Zerga Kra blinked all 12 of his eyes. He did like brats. Within 10 minutes, he was perched gently on the Brooklyn Bridge, delicately holding a hot dog between 2 interdimensional pincers, while a group of humans sang a welcome song. It wasn't even a good song. They made it up on the spot. "You're big, you're red, you eat a lot of stars, but here on Earth, you've got snack bars." Zerga Kra chortled. It was a horrifying multi-frequency noise that made birds fall out of the sky and car alarms go off for miles. But it was definitely a laugh. The council was in shock. "He's not incinerating them," someone whispered. "Wait, is he playing catch?" Yes, he was. A child had thrown a squeaky ball at him. Zerga Kra caught it, squeaked it, then tossed it back. They'd been at it for 43 minutes. Somewhere on a balcony in Madrid, a grandma was knitting a massive scarf. For him, in galactic purple. The Galactic Fleet prepared emergency protocols assuming Zerga Kra had been mind-controlled, or drugged, or corrupted by human memes. But the truth was far, far worse. He was happy. For the first time in his eon-long existence, the Grand Devourer wasn't alone. No one screamed. No one fled. They brought blankets and music. Someone handed him a coloring book. He filled it out with tiny claw tips and asked for more crayons. Zerga Kra moved into a wildlife sanctuary 3 days later. Oregon, to be specific. They built him a thermal lake, set up a movie projector, and gave him a toothbrush the size of a yacht. He named it Kevin. He began finger painting with molten lava and became a local celebrity. Kids sent him drawings. He responded with cosmic finger hearts. The final blow to the council's morale came during a live broadcast. It was meant to be an official statement of domination. Zerga Kra, staring directly into a galactic camera, voice layered with the vibrations of the dead stars, intoned, "I was born to devour, raised to conquer, forged in the infinite void to unmake all who breathe." He paused, then reached off camera, took a cookie from a chubby human child, and said in the same apocalyptic voice, "But these oatmeal raisins are divine." Panic. Screams. A council member fainted. The head of military operations, General Vrax, tried to rally the troops. "We must retaliate, reclaim him, reset his instincts." But no one moved. One officer said softly, "Sir, he's crocheting." Zerga Kra had a knitting club now. 3 humans and a talking raccoon in a beanie, and the raccoon was in charge. The realization hit the council like a quantum freight train. They had weaponized kindness. It wasn't strategic, it wasn't planned. Humans just didn't know when to be scared. And the galaxy's greatest monster, its god of destruction, had become their pet, their friend, their buddy. Now he sends postcards, glowing sigils written in nebula ink that say things like, "Wish you were here, Kevin says hi." And the council? They gave up. Not officially. They still meet, still talk strategy. But deep down, they know. You can't fight a species that hugs apocalyptic entities and teaches them how to bake muffins. You can't conquer creatures who look at your doomsday engine and say, "Aw, look at its little eyes." And you definitely can't intimidate a planet where every horror becomes a house pet. The galaxy didn't lose to warships. It lost to friendship bracelets. And the humans? They still don't know they won. It started with a galactic retreat, not a strategic retreat, not the kind with formations and orders and grim, noble sacrifices. No, this was more like a panicked, flailing, full-speed backpedal from anything vaguely resembling a human. Entire warfleets went dark. Alien empires collapsed their stargates. The Screaming Brotherhood of Ventrax IV changed their name to the Whispering Acquaintances and opened a therapy spa. Even the Swarm of Nine Minds, which once devoured suns just to warm their eggs, migrated to a dimension where no human signals could reach them. The final meeting of the Galactic Council was held in a bunker made entirely of despair and reinforced concrete. Chancellor Zeep's voice trembled as he played the last broadcast intercepted from Earth. The screen lit up. A smiling, middle-aged woman with gardening gloves waved cheerfully. "Hi, friends across the stars? Just wanted to let you know that little Fluffernox is doing so well after his neutering. The cone of shame is so cute. Anyway, this week's craft project, DIY chew toys for your Voidhounds. Stay tuned." She blew a kiss. Behind her was Fluffernox, all 30 meters of him. Galactic threat level, Extinction Class Omega. And he was chasing a tennis ball. That squeaked. With joy. Zeep turned off the feed slowly. His claws twitched. "This is the end, isn't it?" No one answered. Somewhere in the background, Admiral Glarn was chewing on the edge of his own cape. "Do you think," he whispered, "if we apologized, they'd let us go?" Vice-Chancellor Drolock sobbed into a bowl of dry cereal. "They don't even know we were trying to invade. We were erased by brunch." It was true. The final invasion plan, codename Operation Starfall, had been neutralized when the fleet tried to land in Canada during a local maple syrup festival. Instead of fear, the humans offered pancakes. One of the generals was last seen helping judge a pie contest. He never came back. Another task force was lost in rural Australia. They landed in the outback, ready to dominate the region. They encountered a retiree named Uncle Kev, who invited them to a barbecue. That was 3 weeks ago. The only transmission received since was someone singing karaoke while something screamed lovingly in the background. But the worst incident, the one that finally made the council lose all hope, was the accidental adoption of the overmind of Shakrel, a telepathic planet eater, ancient, ruthless, bound by cosmic law to consume sentient civilizations. And yet, a 6-year-old girl named Maisie had found it floating in her backyard, curled up like a psychic storm cloud with anxiety issues. She brought it warm milk and read it bedtime stories. When it tried to devour her mind, she offered it a plushie named Waffles. The overmind never stood a chance. Now it lives in her dollhouse, wearing a bow and writing poetry. So when the council finally voted, the motion passed without a word. Effective immediately, we declare unilateral surrender to humanity by pretending they don't exist. They signed it, then burned every file, map, and data point that included the words Earth, humans, or adorable monstrosities. Galactic law was amended. No species shall engage with Earth unless wearing at least 3 layers of emotional protection and carrying snacks. Ambassadors were recalled. Peace treaties rewritten. The human problem had no military solution. The only working plan? Avoid eye contact. Smile politely. And if approached, pet the nearest beast. Because humans, they weren't conquerors. They weren't warriors. They weren't even aware. They were chaotic, affectionate disasters with too many hobbies. And somehow, through sheer force of friendliness, they'd dismantled centuries of interstellar dominance. Without trying. They thought Zerga Kra was just a big softy who needs cuddles. They turned the Skrarg into a babysitter. They knit sweaters for plasma entities. And the worst part? They thought everyone was doing it too. The humans still didn't know they'd won. As far as Earthlings were concerned, they were just making friends, hosting potlucks, starting Adopt a Cosmic Horror awareness campaigns, teaching black holes how to dance to lo-fi beats, and the rest of the galaxy? They were now hiding behind nebulas, terrified of another Earth broadcast. One final message was received by Deep Space Probe before it self-destructed from sheer confusion. It simply said, "New Earth holiday idea, Hug a Beast Week. Everyone bring your weirdest friend. Let's show the galaxy some love." There was glitter in the message. and googly eyes, and a doodle of fluffernocks wearing bunny ears. The council never spoke again. Some fled, some meditated, some joined local theater groups to process their trauma. But all of them, to this day, remember the last phrase spoken before the transmission cut out. A little girl's voice, warm and excited, echoing into the stars. "Okay, Mr. Shkrel, time for your nap and belly rubs." Silence. And then in one final cosmic whisper, "I think we've awakened something we can never put back to sleep."